What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another monthly update on the fish room outside here in the garage. Today we're going to start off with the plants down here in the sump. This is part of the 200-gallon, I guess, rack system here with all the plecos, the breeding plecos that I've been doing for about 4 or 5 years now. This has been an ongoing project, so I've gotten most of them to breed except for a couple of species that I'm still trying to get going. All right, so let's talk about the plants a little bit here. So I converted the sump to basically be to house plants, to kind of pull out some of the nutrients in the tank here to basically make the water a little bit, you know, nicer, cleaner, whatever, while the plecos are pooping like crap in here. So there's a bunch of debris in here, as you can see. But today the issue we're having is we're seeing a little bit of algae develop on the sores because these guys are slow growers. The algae will get to the plants really easily, and so you need to kind of just do a hydrogen peroxide dip on the plants. It'll basically melt away the algae, and then it'll grow in, you know, just fine. So we'll go ahead and start pulling them up one by one. I just wanted to show you guys what it looks like right now. We've sowed a couple of the swords throughout the year, but I try to propagate them during the winter months, spring, and then sell them during like summer or fall time. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and get these guys back to a top-notch shape, so they'll be ready for next year. All right, so all I'm doing is I'm just grabbing a little bit of hydrogen peroxide here, putting a little bit in here, not much, just a little bit. And I'm gonna pull out one of the sword pots here. It's a little bit dark, but they have a little bit of algae growing along the side, and this is normal for this plant. It's just really slow growing, and it just tends to grow algae a lot. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just dip it in here. We'll keep it in here for like maybe 5 minutes. We'll just basically rotate through all of them here, and then it'll help, you know, get rid of some of the algae. All right, so we don't have any lights on the Pleco tank specifically directly, so I'm just gonna kind of show you guys a couple of them here. So here's the Hippopotamus lutenus Pleco here. He's just chilling in here. I'm gonna go ahead and actually move this here because this guy seems like he's stuck. There we go. Just kind of turn it a little bit here. Yeah, so yeah, he's in there basically linked to a 200-gallon. Basically, each of these tanks are 50 gallons linked all together, and then it goes to a sump that's about 20, probably 30, 40 gallons down there in the sump. But no breeding yet. Other than the 2 clutches of eggs on the Starlight, we haven't seen any eggs this year. Well, let me take that back. We did see some eggs earlier in this year, but during the winter months here, normally that's when I tend to see a lot more of these plecos tend to breed. I did do a water change earlier today, so maybe tomorrow we could possibly potentially see eggs. But I don't see anything right now, so that doesn't mean that, you know, the next couple of days here that they may or may not have eggs. So this is the Starlight tank here. So they had 2 clutches of eggs a couple weeks ago. Probably no, maybe a month ago. And they're in there. We'll show you guys those little fries in a little bit. Well, would you look at that? This is the next day, and just out here about to feed the fish. And saw a clutch of eggs that got kicked out. The dads, for whatever reason, don't want to take care of the eggs, so that's fine. We're gonna collect the eggs. We're gonna put them in here, get another batch going. Yeah, so literally water change, cold water change, next day, boom, we got eggs. All right, so I'm gonna show you the fry right now. So here's one of them right there. They basically hatched, and they are basically big enough where they can eat on their own. They're still kind of small. I've been feeding them like basically powder food, and then, you know, they'll have some other food in here that they'll just munch on. There's always wood in here that they like to just kind of munch on throughout the day, night, and stuff like that. So it's always good to have. It's just a little bit of wood or something like that. But yeah, there's a ton of them. They're just swimming in here. They're pretty big. And then the other ones you can see here that were the original ones earlier this year, they're bigger, much bigger than these guys. And then same thing with the tiger plecos here. You get in there. They're about like a little bit bigger than an inch or so. Same thing, a couple guys back there. They're still growing, you know. We'll hopefully they'll grow a little bit more in the next couple months. I would say 6 more months So in the summertime, we potentially may have some of these guys ready to potentially sell. But the culls, look at these culls, they're crazy. Their reds are just insane now. I think I'm gonna have to start culling these guys and putting them into the good tank because some of these reds are just insane. Like, wow, right? While we're talking about the painted fire reds, here is the colony again. It's starting to come back to life. Yeah, ever since I found that broken heater being the issue and putting the carbon in, it looks like the shrimp is slowly kind of picking back up. There's still a bunch of snails, so I'll probably end up, slowly removing the snails. I don't think I'll ever remove all the snails completely, just because you can't. Once you have snails, it's just gonna take over the tank. But we'll slowly remove them. That way, it gives the shrimp plenty of like calcium. Because I do put calcium into the tank here, but because the snails are in here, they do fight for the calcium as well. But we want these shrimps to breed and get bigger and fatter and redder and basically repopulate, because I ended up losing a bunch of them because of that heater issue. So yeah, these guys are doing their thing. All right, moving up here into the Blue Dreams. The Blue Dreams, it's been 2 months. 2 months, and these guys are slowly breeding for me. Before I didn't see any babies, but now you can see there's tons of babies. It just takes time, for a colony to start, reproducing, growing, and getting used to the parameters and whatnot. And again, I bought like maybe 4 different sources of Blue Dreams, put them all together here, 10 each, a lot of them died off, and then, a couple of them survived. So whatever survived, started breeding, and this is what we got so far. So not too bad. I would say we're back to what we probably purchased initially, and these ones will start to breed for us and hopefully just slowly grow. Over here on the neon yellows, these are doing extremely well. As you can see, we have way more babies, way more shrimp than the blues. They both started with the same amount. I would say this one probably has a lot more than the blues for sure, by probably 2 dozen or so. More count. There's a lot more babies. I saw a lot more babies in this one before, this one here. So they are breeding in here. So that's great. And then over here in this tank, this is supposed to be just my snail tank, but I'll probably end up putting the snails across all the tanks and just kind of keeping this, for whatever. But this, I only bought 10 of them, and along with the rillies, of course. I only had like maybe 4 or 5 rillies in here, but again, breeding like crazy off of 10 only, and we already have more than 10 here easily. So that's crazy. That's awesome. All right, moving on to the Ultima Angel and Red Shoulder Angelfish tank. The tank's looking beautiful. I can't complain on the tank right now. It's looking marvelous. Next couple months, like I said, is going to be regrowing a lot of these plants, getting them ready for next year. We do have a little bit of algae on the Kimberleys here that I've been basically pulling back the leaves and then just letting them grow new leaves so that the algae can kind of just fade away. That's probably the best way to do it. If you have a plant that's just covered in algae, just pull off all the algae leaves and just put it back in, and it'll regrow without algae. A little bit healthier, way better, way easier. But yeah, so the Novas, I still have just the 3 large ones. I actually pulled this one just to check, just to see if we can have a split or anything. We have nothing from that one, so I'm guessing these other 2, no splits. I've been looking at them, they're just one big mother plant. So yeah, that's just going to be it. All of these Blixas here are growing like crazy. I actually trimmed all of these back in terms of like sowed them off, a ton of them throughout the year, just to try to get rid of as many of them so that during the winter months we can trim back and regrow them. But like, man, they are just growing like crazy for me, so that's awesome. The Toninas are finally bouncing back. I had lost a bunch of them after like a water change. They're really sensitive to certain things, but yeah, I had like maybe 20 stems, lost most of them, and then like I had a bunch of them in algae, and I pulled back a bunch of them and only had like maybe 3 or 4 here. It looked pretty good, replanted them, and then so we'll pick it up next year where these guys will slowly bounce back. The Loguigia, which is behind here somewhere, they're not doing too well. They haven't been doing well at all since I transitioned this tank out into the garage. I think it's a temperature thing. When it gets a little bit too hot, these guys just, they don't like it. The plants don't like it. Like right now, the temperature is actually like perfect for them, because during winter months, it's actually cooler, where the heater needs to be on to keep the temperatures correct. And as you can see, the plants are just loving the temperatures right now. But eventually, once we kind of have everything situated inside with the tanks, with the saltwater tank, I think we're going to move the planet tank inside, so the temperature's a little bit better regulated. Like out here, a lot of this just fish only and some of the hardy plants do really good. But during the summer months, I've noticed a lot of these plants, they just don't grow really well. They grow, but it's just like enough to just stay alive, and they just, you know, kind of don't do really well. So that's the one drawback about having a planet tank in the garage. You can't really regulate the temperature unless you have like an AC unit or whatever in here, and I don't. Right, it's just a garage, and whatever the temperature is, whatever the, you know, that's what the temperature is going to be during the summer. But winter time, I can actually control it, so that's the only time that's going to be steady for the next couple months. So these plants will do absolutely awesome during these next couple months here, I think. All right, okay, and lastly, we got the plecos that are in quarantine. They pretty much made the full quarantine. Now I'm just keeping them in here just for additional monitoring, just to make sure everything's okay. You know, obviously they're eating, they're pooping really well. I actually pulled in a couple of the tiger plecos in here because they were getting beat up. They're fully healed in about a week or so. Both of them are fully healed, but now I'm just kind of keeping them together because they're going to be living in the same, you know, environment. So if the tiger plecos show any issues for the next, you know, couple weeks or so, we know that these guys are carrying something that, you know, potentially they're immune to, and the tiger plecos aren't now. So now they're just coexisting with each other just to see if there's any other issues, any weird issues. I always just am extra cautious, especially in adding new fish to a well established tank, especially we have breeding pairs in that system. I just want to make sure that we're really safe and okay. So they're going to go through here probably in the next couple months again, just to be extra safe and cautious about that. So yeah, we have them all in here. They're eating, they're doing well. I think, like I said, we have at least 2 females, so they're fat, and like that one's pretty fat, right? And they look pretty happy. So hopefully we can get these guys eventually into the other main system to start breeding. But yeah, these guys are going to chill here for a while. Alright guys, and that is the December update on the Fishroom. I hope you guys enjoyed this update. If you guys aren't subscribed yet, make sure you guys are subscribed. And like always, next time guys, peace.